Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Beat the Banks. Let me fix my hat here. From Beacon DeFi, I'm your host, the DeFi Professor. This is our weekly podcast where we talk about self-custody, basic concepts in decentralized finance and blockchain and on-chain investing, and how you can become your own bank to beat the banks moving forward. So, sorry. Just like I was literally engrossed in the replies to this one specific this one specific article that I clearly need to read to get the breadth of. Breath being BREADTH. 1 second while I put the word out that we are live. Okay, so shout out to everybody on the arena.social, not on the Avalanche blockchain. Shout out to them. One of the few decentralized on-chain media spots that are still running live stream video in a decentralized way. I'm sure there are some other platforms. If you are one and you're watching this, please reach out to me. Would love to support you. Most of the others, unfortunately, have kind of gone the way of just pivoting, or they, unfortunately could not continue as a company. So just going to take a quick second to put some posts out on our other spots. This is going to be about tools that you need to succeed as a DeFi investor. So that's what today's call is about here on Beat the Banks. I'm going to walk you through some of the things that I do to help me as a DeFi investor, and hopefully you'll find some good value in this. So as you get into your on-chain journey, you can certainly find that as well. An on-chain investor. Because it's really important, if you're going to be your own bank, that you have all the tools that you need to continuously stay on top and have that edge, right? Because that's really the big part of, everything that we talk about in our content is having an edge. And you want to make sure that you have an edge. And that's the most important part. All right, let's get that there. And half of that is going to be what I'm going to talk about in a second as I post to these other platforms, is just having the right media sources, right? To me, that's probably a huge part of what's important, is just having, just having the right media sources in order to continue to get the best information. So, here, at least on the on-chain space, there's two ways you can go about it. The first is right now, honestly, most of the biggest projects are posting on X or Twitter. The second would be Farcaster. And if you've never been to Farcaster is a really great platform. It is decentralized social media. It looks very much well, why is this not what I'm looking at? Oh, right. Because I'm on the wrong window. I'm like, I'm on the wrong window. So Farcaster.xyz, and just as a shout out to the Brave browser, that is the browser that we recommend the most. It has, well, what's great is that it has privacy baked in. It's very lightweight. I would say definitely because I'm coming to you from a MacBook, an M1 Max MacBook. And I can tell you after testing quite a few browsers, and Safari is fine, but Safari is fine for regular things. With regards to investing, having a good sandbox, right, where you can compartmentalize and put things in one spot. Brave has everything that Chrome has, but it's privacy focused and it's better on memory in my tests. Now there's some others you can use. Orion is a good choice. Zen browser is fine. Arc, Sigma. Um, there's quite a few others. I've tried them all, and to me at least, outside of Orion, which I believe is Firefox based if I'm not mistaken, it also has a hybrid extension thing, so it works with the Chrome web store as well. Brave is just overall the best choice, at least that what I've found. So Brave is good, and the one thing I would recommend is you have the ability to have profiles. Here, this is my Rabby profile. I have multiple other profiles here for different types of things. I also have a version of Brave that I use specifically for personal things. So things to consider when you're on there. To my left here on my big monitor, I have it hooked up to this laptop, but I also have it hooked up to my AI development box that's running on Linux. And Brave has been fantastic on there. The majority of Linux distributions use Firefox as their basic, but I found that Brave works well there as well. So that's what I'm personally using. It's a great thing to use. It's a great one in my opinion to use. So this is Farcaster at XYZ. It looks very much like X, right? Different. They also even have spaces. They have the different things different. They have things called mini apps. That's something that Twitter does not have, or X does not have. And you have the ability to have fun little things. Most of these are all based off of just basic HTML and CSS and JavaScript, so that's great about that. There is direct chat. But the one thing that's different about it being Farcaster is because it also has a wallet built in. I'm not going to show you that here, but the wallet's right here. Excuse me. And it utilizes its own blockchain that's built on top of Base. It's called Degen Chain. It's what we would consider a layer 3 on top of a layer 2, which is Base, which rolls up independently now to layer 1 Ethereum mainnet. So that's tool number 1, right? Tools that you need to get the best information that's out there. Obviously, take a second to obviously go through and just make sure, like if you're on Twitter, just make sure that what you have there is great. What I would recommend, and I have it I've had it forever in our free content here on Total Value Locked, is lists. Lists are a very important and powerful part of your X dashboard. Now, I'm not obviously not financial advice, doing research. I pay for X Premium. I did pay for X Premium Plus, which is $40 a month. I didn't see the big value in it, to be quite honest, with all things that they have there. I'm also, qualified as a creator on X. And I went down to the $9.99 tier from $40. There's some things you can get at $40 that are, I'm sure, that are definitely worth it. I couldn't see the value personally. I think do I lose the X Pro dashboard? I might. X Pro was great. You could have columns of information, which kind of made it a little bit more overwhelming, if I'm being very honest. I think having lists and using bookmarks, and I hope they make bookmarks a lot more seamless. I know there are folders in bookmarks, which is nice. But having an organized process for that would be great. Another thing you can use if you want to take care of that, and I'm going to be working with my AI agent, is this weekend to work more with this, is Rainbow. And that is not the correct website for Rainbow. Do I have that wrong? Raindrop. I mean, that would be why, because I called it rainbow instead of raindrop. Raindrop's great. They do have a paid version, which is pro yearly. That's not terrible. I have my VPN on. That's probably why that's showing in euros, because taking a little vacation to do a little bit of research. Um, that's not terrible. Build monthly. I mean, $3 a month. It's not terrible. But what you get here is integrations, right? You can also tie this into your AI agent to watch all of this stuff. You have bookmarks, collections, and basically what you would have to do is get into the workflow of putting anything that you find into Raindrop, and then it can be used, specifically for managing your bookmarks. And it's great. It's a great, simple interface. It's what I like to see. I guess they have some. Okay, instant preview, and that's fine. And this is the reason. Honestly, if there's a reason to pay for it, it would be this, because you get the integration specifically for X bookmarks, and Lord knows, there's no easy way to get all of that there. So again, a lot of today we'll talk a little bit about just the systemization and potentially just the methods that have helped me on where I am today. Also big that I use is, besides Twitter and Farcaster because it is base adjacent would be the word. There's a lot of things that happen in the base ecosystem that are going to be on Farcaster. There's also just a lot more love. I think, there's a lot of, let's just use the word toxicity on X. You don't get that nearly as much, in my opinion, in the Farcaster ecosystem. It's a lot more, it's just a lot more comprehensive. I think everybody understands how the special environment that is going to become what Farcaster has already developed into. It's because of their mini apps that the base app decided to go with something like that route. They have since pivoted away from all of that, which was a bummer, but because it really got Farcaster into the ethos, in my opinion. But that ethos is now completely changed, right? The other thing I'd recommend is feedly.com. And you can create your own custom feeds here with the sidebar. And they have a bunch of this stuff. I mean, I've been using Feedly almost 20 years now, roughly, in some way or another. I did use Google News for a long time, and I was looking for a good aggregator. And this is what we call RSS aggregation. Really simple syndication is what RSS stands for. And it's just an XML standard, a markup-based standard that allows software to aggregate just articles from the internet, right? So crypto is what I have. There's a bunch of different sources that I have linked here. Stuff like CoinDesk, Bitcoin Magazine, Cointelegraph, The Defiant. I think that's all. I haven't, today in DeFi, I haven't updated in a while. Crypto News, I'm sure there's some better ones to put in there. Bankless is here as well. Merkle News and Finance Magnates, I think, is another that I'll get every once in a while. But as you can see, it goes back a couple. I didn't do a research stream this week. I normally do a research stream where I do this specific part. I go through the articles that are here that are crypto or digital asset DeFi related, blockchain adjacent stuff, and just give my thoughts about them. I do that every Monday, roughly between 1 or 2 p.m. Eastern. If that's something that interests you, feel free to subscribe to me personally on my X, which is at C Soriano, to look at that. Interesting. Bitcoin will dwindle away with a whimper. I don't know if that's going to happen, but Sofon shuts down its ZK Sync chain, which was a layer 2. Rebuilds as a customer app studio and base. That's interesting. Tether USDT closes in on Ether for a number. Ooh, really? Is that the case? We were looking at Cardano earlier on one of our calls. Oh my gosh, look at that. It totally is. That's very interesting. Um, Bitmine Immersion, Tom Lee's fund, has been trying to own 5% of the global ETH supply. I think they're going to get there fairly quickly because I think they already own like 4.5, which is a ridiculous number over the last 18 months. They've been able to come up as a DATCO, a digital asset treasury company, and then purchase and hold a significant amount of the supply that's out there. Bitcoin, of course, that Michael Saylor's strategy or MicroStrategy is one of the biggest players there. So we'll see exactly how risk markets are going to react to Fed Chair Kevin Warsh's comments today. One thing that we've talked about, and we talked about this on Wednesday as well as my last Monday research stream, is that, and I've said this from the beginning, Kevin Warsh is much more hawkish on policy. So he's going to be a lot more conservative. In fact, they believe that he's actually going to raise rates later this year. Regardless, he has stated that they are not going to be giving a lot of forward guidance moving forward publicly. If we happen to see it, there's a couple of leaks and a couple of moles that are in the organization because he is of the ilk that he wants people to be in the dark on what the Fed's going to do. I understand the approach because Chairman Powell before him was much more giving and signaling with specific thoughts and things on policy, and Chair Warsh believes that was probably the worst move with regards to capping inflation. Although, I mean, if you just look at the numbers, you know, Chairman Powell did a good job of getting to the 2% target rate while still balancing the rest of the labor market. Regardless of how you feel about him politically, his job was to do that, and he did do that. And he was very forthcoming with the news about that. Chair Warsh is in a different spot. He wants to maintain that 2% or get back to that 2%, because I think the number is about 4. But at the same time, he doesn't want to give any signals for people to price in things, for any manipulation to happen. That's probably the framing they're going to do. Because he feels that there are a lot of people who trade and manipulate the market based on what they think the Fed is going to do. And if you always keep the group guessing, it might make the market a little bit less manipulable, maybe possibly a bit more honest. With that said, pardon me, allergies. We have seen many times in the past 2 years where President Trump or someone from, his administration comes out to make a statement, and then suddenly you see big winners on certain commodities, certain stocks, certain coins, tokens. There is manipulation happening there, right? Someone is profiting off of these announcements. So if that means we're going to see more of that, more insider movement, I don't love that. But at the same time, the idea of keeping things guessing to keep the market a little bit more honest, I'm certainly on board with. But because market manipulation has been terrible. We've been chopped to death for pretty much the entirety of this administration. To the point where CoinMarketCap now lists prediction markets as that's crazy. This is crazy that prediction markets are here. There's nothing crazy specifically about prediction markets, right? What most people don't realize is that a lot of the prediction markets, they're their rails are blockchain based, specifically in the case of Polymarket and many others like it. And now Zuckerberg at Meta has mandated that there needs to be a prediction market through Meta's umbrella. That probably will not be blockchain based, but it probably would be to their advantage to do that. Uh, their acquisition of Manus AI could definitely open some doors to that, because Manus was um, a bit of a decentralized product before. Um, so we'll see exactly where we're at. Um, we'll see where we're at too with RWAs. That seems to be the other big thing that people are very interested in with regards to stocks. Um, sorry, I mean stocks. I'm talking about tokenization of stocks, right? That's coming soon. That's going to be a thing. Regardless of how we can access it, we already have that access, right? On Hyperliquid, there's already some tokenized stocks on there. On X stocks, that's on Solana. There's plenty of access there. It's now owned by Kraken, so on their centralized exchange, they have that as well. You go somewhere like BuyReal or Jupiter. Let me go back up here to where. They have plenty of perps here for tokenized stuff. Oh, I guess they don't. Let's just go back to trade. And they've got plenty of this type of stuff, right? Here, of course, we're going to have Mantle because it's the Mantle is their layer 2. We have SpaceX. We have a bunch of different things that are here. It's just interesting to see how things are going to be going with tokenized stocks. The ability to, and this is through Backpacks Exchange, by the way, so that makes it the actual one-to-one redemption. Yeah, we're going to see a movement of tokenized stocks coming on chain. We're going to see a movement for more bank accounts and U.S. accounts being on chain. Now that Paxos, Ripple, Coinbase, Circle, and a couple others have their banking license, we're going to see more products that are very similar to what Coinbase runs now, but that'll be off of DeFi rails. Why? Because the yield's better there. I mean, Coinbase does loans now that use layer 2 base as the space where all the strategies are done, like through Morpho, Moonwell, stuff like that. So we're going to see that in the next 12 to 18 months. We've been talking about this for 5 years, guys. So it's like, yeah. I mean, we've been watching this grow and mature to where 2026 is the year of integration of all of this technology. So back to Feedly. Again, having a holistic way to look at all of your sources, whether that's through looking at, because you can put anything with an RSS feed here. So Substack, I think, also works here. So having Substacks, regular aggregated news, even things like Twitter lists, stuff like that. You put together lists of people that you like, sources that you think have good, specifically good news, or just valuable news that you find valuable. It's good to put lists together. One thing I would definitely recommend is, if you're going to do this on Twitter, even YouTube, even TikTok, Instagram, where a lot more, there's a little bit of a movement of creators going that way, have a separate account specifically for your investing, because you're in a situation where you're training an algorithm to show you content based on things that you like. One thing I will say about having a system like this is you're going to have to engage with it roughly about an hour a day, I'd say, right? Because you want to continue to give you want to continue to give feedback to the algorithm, understanding what you're stopping and looking at, what you're bookmarking, what you're even replying to, engaging with. These are all things that train an algorithm because they're only going to show you things that you want. One thing too on Twitter is now they have a categorization specifically for um, things like crypto, things like that. Now, anybody who watches my content, you know I don't love the category of crypto. I think it's an outdated term. I think it has bad optics. I think digital assets is the better way to go. DeFi is also a great way to talk about it because most people look at this in a financial lens. But and especially if you're doing this for Beat the Banks, you're going to be looking at it from more of a financial lens. So I think digital asset is a better way to really just highlight a lot of what's going on here. The second thing you're going to need to be successful is a hardware wallet, and we can kind of take a look at Amazon real quick. Prime Day, I think today's the last day for Prime Day. If we just look at hardware wallet, we can see exactly what the Prime Day deals are, right? So let's look at what they are. Take that off of there. You don't need to know what's in my cart. I don't know why that's just sitting there, but regardless, it's fine. This is a pretty good deal for the Trezor Safe 3. When it comes to cold storage, it doesn't matter what you use. As long as it's EAL 5 plus certified, I'd even say EAL 6, EAL 7 even, that's really what you're looking for. The majority of these wallets all support the same number of coins, roughly, right? Interesting. Elapal has one. Where's Ledger? Ledger has a store here, so that's why I'm curious as to why that didn't happen. Yeah, they have their own store. So here's the thing about buying things from Amazon. Obviously, we always tell people if you can, buy it from the actual manufacturer if you can. Oh, it's not that. It's .io. My fault. Yeah, being able to buy them directly from the manufacturer is going to always be the best way to go about it. Grid Plus is a little bit more expensive because you need the lattice device, but I mean, just look at this honking behemoth of a machine. I mean, it's a weapon. It's a weapon, but it's got this fantastic large screen that you're not going to find even on a Ledger. Is it the Flex? The Stacks. Stacks is the. I thought they had a newer one. But there's no Prime Day sale on that, looks like. Oh, there is on this one, on the Flex. So $50 off for the Flex. That's not a bad deal. It's an e-ink display, which makes it good. It has Bluetooth. Oh, they have a... is that a backup with a... They have backups on... Huh. Interesting. And you get it right away, overnight for the Neptune Blue. So that's the one that's on super sale. And I've seen all of these in person. I've held them. They work great. This thing is smaller than you think. The Stacks is going to be the largest one. What I like about the Stacks specifically is that it just has a larger screen. So much like the Grid Plus. Your actual hardware wallet are these cards, and you can buy them and swap them out. So you have one device that reads the card, and it can do all this for you. So you actually approve these transactions with the cards in. So Obviously, there are multiple that are out there. Personally, we always recommend Ledger and Trezor and Grid Plus, maybe even a Keystone, just because they're more of the market leaders. There's some other ones like Tangem, Arcturus. There's even a really cool homegrown one that someone put into an older Game Boy that I think is great. That actually, I think, goes through like some type of game quest, so you get your seed phrase. I think gamifying anything is a great idea. Uh, but having a hardware wallet, if you're going to be farming with one, like putting in yield farming positions, the only choice you're going to have is going to be Ledger. And if we're going to be talking about Ledger, the only Ledger that I think, I mean, they're all fine pieces of hardware. But if you're just looking for something in particular that's going to be easy to use, and going to be one that makes the most sense, it's going to be the Nano S Plus. X is fine. It's down $50 now from the 149 it used to be. But there's really, in my opinion, not a ton of feature difference between the two, other than the button system on the X is different, whereas the Nano S Plus has these two on the top. But the Nano S Plus also comes in multiple colorways. I personally love the orange. Where are you, orange? Right there. Oh, they've redone the orange. It was a much more bright orange with, semi-transparency there. Ultimately, for most people, this is all you're ever going to need. They both support thousands of cryptocurrency coins and tokens, digital assets. And the reason why we recommend this for DeFi is because across multiple ecosystems, Trezor only works on Ethereum, on EVM. So anything EVM based. It could work on Solana, but it depends on the protocol, because wallets for Solana don't support Trezor, at least as of today's broadcast on June 26, 2026. 6626? Cool. Yeah, it doesn't support it. There are certain protocols that take a direct connection from a ledger. I mean, not from a ledger, from a Trezor. But overall, you can connect the ledger to Rabi. You can also do that with Trezor, but it's only going to be on EVM, and Rabi is EVM currently anyway. But for multiple groups, like let's say you're going to stacks, layer 2 stacks for Bitcoin, Solana, EVM, Cosmos, even Ledger's the only wallet that's supported as a hardware wallet for DeFi positions on all of those. So that's the main reason why we recommend it. Otherwise, for cold storage, doesn't matter which one you use, as long as it's part of that standard. You're good to go there. Sorry, I just got a notification about Bitcoin falling again. 59.5. So, having the right hardware, having the right news pieces here, we can talk about wallets that you can use, blockchains that you can use. What I normally tell our group, and I'll tell this to you guys here, is that if there is one thing that we talk about in all of our webinars, and all of our, I'm going to DeFiLlama.com, by the way. Shout out to NGMI, shout out to Patrick there at the group. We're a big proponent of volume equals yield. So if you want to be in a spot where you're going to find yield, you need to go to where most of the TVL is, where most of the people are using. Now, Ethereum, of course, is great. If you want to pay the additional for gas, that's up to you. We generally stay a little bit cheaper. Solana is a spot where we talk a lot about things, as well as Base, Arbitrum, Polygon, even Plasma, Hyperliquid, of course, for Hyper EVM, and a little bit of OP, depending on what's going on. But that's the majority. Sometimes we talk about Mantle if there's something that's going on there. Kraken Inc. is one of our personal favorites that we like. And ultimately, when you're in a situation where you have a lot of TVL coming in, like we talked about Monad earlier as well, I'm happy to see that they're going up and to the right from launch, from where they were, as opposed to, for example, something like Barachain, which has gone from almost 3 billion down to, I think. And shout out to Barachain. Obviously, I'm not trying to shade them here, but they've moved down to roughly about 55 million in TVL from being well above 3 billion by the time they launched a year ago. In earnest rather, because the joke was always they'll go live Q5 2024, I think was the joke. And maybe they never should have. Maybe they never should have launched to some people, because there are a lot of people who had 7, 8, 9 figures in the chain, chilling in Boyko and some of the other inside of Bex and some of these other protocols that have been in there for a long time. Once the airdrop happened, I think that's probably the sign where most people just decided to use it as a liquidity exercise and get out. And unfortunately, Barachain has been very low ever since. So DeFi Llama is another tool that I wanted to highlight specifically as your source of truth. Stablecoin market cap 314 billion. That's a good sign. We can go down here and look at this. USDT dominance is now under 60%. That's a huge metric here for the ecosystem. That's something that I thought we'd never see, if I'm being very honest. Mainly because when I came up in DeFi a long time ago, the majority of the TVL, or at least the market cap, was Tether. Now, a lot of that is at the CEX level, right? If you go to any non-US exchange, like Binance, Bybit, all these places, all their trading pairs are denominated in USDT. Not a lot in USDC. So there's still lots of utility for Tether from that standpoint. A lot of the TVL specifically for USDT sits on Tron, which is the main reason why Tron is still such a big spot. Stablecoin market cap says total value locked 4.4 billion. Not really sure where, but the stablecoin market cap is gigantic, and the majority of that is in USDT. Look at that, 97% USDT dominance. That's like $80 billion of TVL for Tether is on Tron. Now, to their credit, Tron is fairly easy to bridge back and forth between CXs and other spots, and it's cheap to transact, right? They have their own stablecoin. I think it's USDD. I don't remember the exact one. Didn't do all that well. They're very low on certain things, but there's a lot of things they're working on getting better at. RWAs is one. Another thing that Justin Sun has mentioned, with meme coins, with Sunpump, and some of the stuff that's there, is looking for institutions to come on and onboard a lot of money. So we'll see exactly how this all plays out. I think what's interesting is that I thought that the Trump playbook, at least, because of everything going on, was to kind of do some quick precision operations in certain spots, and then figure out a way to make the move to on-chain very quick. That was the way that I thought they were going to go. They have this USD1 stablecoin with World Liberty Financial. They have World Liberty Financial. They've been consistently buying large amounts of digital assets across multiple chains and ecosystems, whether it's Ethereum mainnet, Solana, other chains. Interesting that Provenance is probably just because of what's in there. Provenance, if I'm not mistaken, is for... I don't think we have a website for them. Interesting. Well, it's all based on home loans, because Figure and Provenance, they're huge on HELOC stuff, tranches of HELOCs. So You're ever curious about getting into some of your equity on your home? Consider getting a HELOC, and you can do so through Providence. They're providing a lot of infrastructure for that, so that's bullish on them. That's the main reason why they have a lot of their um, TVL is based on those loans. So, one big issue that we're having, right? And let's kind of talk about this, and the reason why hardware wallets are so important. We don't have a lot of people. We have some people in our group who hold ADA, but we don't really talk about ADA because, frankly, there's just not a lot of DeFi that happens with ADA. You can make your arguments, yes, there is, but they've made a lot of specific choices in their architecture that I didn't care for. They try to push their own narrative. That's kind of how ADA is culture anyway. They talk about true decentralization there. Now, unfortunately, this issue with Emergo, Yoroi, SecondFi. Now, again, this has nothing to do with ADA as a chain. This is all with how Yoroi and SecondFi as wallets worked specifically on Cardano. Unfortunately, it's bled over to Cardano token, price action, a variety of things, because people lost, I think it was like 16 million, roughly. With that, and the largest one I believe was 3.3 million on a SecondFi or your wallet. The point here is, guys, you shouldn't be holding a lot of coins on a quote-unquote hot wallet, meaning it was done from a web extension that calls out to a server, as opposed to with a hardware wallet, you can actually set up your wallet and get that started, well, at least your seed phrase, get all of that set up without being connected to the internet. And that's the part that's the most important, because that's the part that people that's the security that you're looking for, right? All it takes is for someone to be logging your computer, and they can figure out everything you're doing with a hot wallet. Not saying that it's likely, because there are even newer ways to have wallets with things like Privy and Dynamic, where they can use a social login and all of that to create a wallet for you. Privy is a Stripe company now as well, and uses things like your social login, right? So for like Twitter, for your email, stuff like that. So having good security, having good operational security, good password management, these are all things that are very important for you to have tools that help you be your own bank. Because having a weak password, not a good thought, not a good idea. The whole thing with Novo Nordisk. We talked about this on the show. What up, Van Ho? I spelled Vordisk wrong. Nordisk. There we go. This is the one we talked about on the show. So, the hackers who got in claimed the company was using passwords like Novo123 for critical systems. I mean, this is terrible operational security, right? If you're going to be like a bank, like a strong institution, regardless of what industry you're in, please have better operational security than this. If you have like a 7-character password that a script could breach in less than like 2 milliseconds, then you know that your operational security is bad. And these are large companies who are a part of our society. They're the main company behind Ozempic, if I'm not mistaken, and other big pharmaceuticals. They're a huge biotech company. If they're willing to be this willy-nilly with your data, imagine what other companies or groups that are not taking their operational security seriously have information about you that can be released out there. The last thing you want is for you to have a data breach and then, people coming to your house for something that you thought was fairly mindless. like trying to sign up to win that cyber truck, or trying to get into trying to get into a wait list to buy a book you were curious about, or even something as simple as voting. Doesn't take much for people to get your data if there's poor operational security. So as a bank, you also should have good operational security. One thing I would recommend for sure is a password manager. We talk about this all the time, and I'll probably cover it again in a couple of weeks. There are multiple password managers out there. Um, Honestly, they're all great, except for LastPass. Don't ever use LastPass ever again. But I personally use 1Password. I think it works well cross-chain. You can also use Bitwarden. The reason why Bitwarden is good is because it is open source. They do have an enterprise version, of course, but for the most part it's free because it's open source. They also have this portion here for that type of thing, but if you just want the basic password manager, it's free. It doesn't have the prettiest UI, doesn't need to. But all it does is it gives you have one master password that should be very long, very hard to guess. Like my master password is at least 50 characters. And it's, I hope nobody else can guess it, because then that would be weird. But, yeah, being able to have something like this available on all platforms, uses biometrics as a second factor, not SMS. These are things that you want, right? You want to be able to have that strong. At this point, you do have stronger security than a bank at this point, because you go to a bank, they're like, we sent a code to your phone. Tell us what that 6-digit code is. That is like terribly inefficient and not the best OPSEC. People get SIM swapped attacked all the time. And what I mean by that is they can go, and especially in the world of digital eSIMs that are now available for a lot of companies, you do the one wrong thing, they can actually tap in and get in. But people like Vitalik Buterin, co-founder of Ethereum, he got SIM swapped attacked, and he's pretty damn good about security. So there are a lot of companies, at least in Web3, that don't use SMS and stuff like that. They'll use stuff like TOTP, which is something you can get with like Google Authenticator. I personally use NT because I was using Authy, and there's no way to transfer your codes once let's say you get a new phone. There's no way to transfer that stuff over. I don't know if you can do that here either very easily. It can be a pain in the butt, but these are what we call TOTP, or timed one-time passwords. The best way to go about it, honestly, is using biometrics, like with a Face ID, a fingerprint, something like that. Those are the best, but these are, in my opinion, probably a close second. Hardware keys, like a YubiKey, also a good thing. But the thing with... Actually, let's check to see, are YubiKeys on... Do we have a Prime Day? Prime Day deals. Nope, these are not Prime Day deals. So there's some that are like it, right? So what we're looking for are these FIDO2 certified keys. They're not going to be cheap, right? But security isn't always the cheapest, and they're annoying. That's the whole point. You want this multi-factor, two-factor authentication, and it's not always going to be available for everything that you do. Now, the reason why I like Rabby, and of course, shout out to Avalanche for also including this at the smart contract level, you can use biometrics to sign transactions. Like with with Rabby, you have to actually scan the QR code and use biometrics from my 1Password vault in order to get in. That's a great way to keep things secure. I would definitely set it so that your wallet closes and you have to re-authenticate every. I mean, obviously, it's up to you. I would say 10 minutes is perfectly fine, because it is a pain in the butt to have to, go through your entire security protocol. But that's okay, because security is meant to be annoying. Because if it's annoying for you, it's annoying doubly so for bad actors, and they won't take the time. They'll just find someone else who is unprepared and uneducated. And if you watch our content, you will be neither. Ever. So yeah, tools to succeed. You need to have an edge in the intelligence part. You need to have an edge, and what I mean by intel, like the alpha part, like just having all of your news there at your fingertips, having a good system for that, coming up with a routine, how you look at that type of stuff, being very organized with what you have. All of our members in our mastermind have a full template with an investment plan, as well as tracking their wallets. Something you should consider as well. We've got a full system on how that all works as part of our frameworks, which includes a security piece. And let me go ahead and shout that out right now. Free group, Total Value Lock, school.com/beacon. We've been doing this for a very long time, guys. This show specifically has been in the works weekly since January 2022. And our goal here is to turn you into your own bank. Make sure you can go through and get in and understand the technology, the concepts. All of that's here on our website, our free group, Total Value Lock, school.com/beacon. You'll go down to our Start Here post. You'll get a message from myself and our CEO, Andrew. What is the file extension of Rabby backup if you save to PC? Well, Crypto Man, I'm not sure exactly. I don't think I've actually tried to back up to PC, but generally those are CSV files, because it's built. Because Rabby is built on top of MetaMask. So if you have transactions within Rabby, that's generally going to be a CSV. Let's answer. Actually, I'm on the wrong account. This is the demo account. I'll answer the other way. But generally, if you have transactions, it's going to be a CSV. But you can go here. You'll see a message from myself and our CEO Andrew. I want to thank all of our Beacon Mastermind founding members, as well as our current members, along with our Spotlight subscribers and our Challenge members for helping make what we do possible. And again, that's for our. We do have tons of free content, but if you want one-on-one mentorship, you want to be a part of an exclusive community of like-minded individuals, get 24/7 access to us as a team and to me personally, you can do so by taking advantage of some of our offers at our Beacon Mastermind. You can find out more at school.com/beacon here in the Start Here post. Again, thanks again for joining us this week, and I hope you found good value into becoming your own bank. It starts with a couple different things, right? So the idea is that you want to have a hardware wallet for self-custody, because in our world, your key is your crypto, right? You put it on CX, that's not your crypto. You're keeping it on their site. But if you're keeping it in a hardware wallet off-site, that's perfectly in line with that. Chairman Paul Atkins of the SEC believes that self-custody and the tenets of decentralized finance and blockchains are part of the digital ethos of what makes every American an American. You can almost liken it to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness in that way. We talked about, in terms of having, you need to start with a foundation of good security. So, use a password manager. Get a hardware key for certain things if it's available. Make it difficult for people to get into your system. That's the biggest part. Having good walls, having good ways so that people just can't come into your system and walk in. That also involves having strong passwords on things like your local internet. So like your local Wi-Fi. I know people who are, they do things on like special laptops that they build so they know the parts that are going in. Using specific OSs, they actually segment off some of their home internet for only a specific portion. There's a lot of things that they do specifically for that. So, and understanding which is yours. I would definitely recommend, if you get something like this, use nail polish, spray paint, whatever, to identify what's yours. One thing you should definitely never do, if you find a USB flash drive somewhere, like even something like this or something like this, do not put it into your system if you have no idea what you're doing. That's just a bad idea, because there are multiple, especially if you're like on Windows or something like that, the moment you pop it in, a payload can be brought into your computer literally within milliseconds, and there is nothing you can do about it. It's a bad idea. Um, Especially if you just have like the defaults going on. Outside of that, the next part's going to be in the intelligence edge. I use Feedly along with, mainly for my aggregated things. I also use Telegram, Twitter or X, Farcaster, getting all of that all put together. Raindrop is a great way to manage your bookmarks, whether it's with any of those sites, even things like YouTube, stuff like that, things that you save. You can actually, there's integrations to put them here within Raindrop, and then you could use something like an AI agent or something like that to analyze all that, give you some insights, help keep you on the up and up. After that, it's about having good wallets, having good hardware wallets, and then just being a part of communities like ours. We talk about things all the time. People ask questions, we definitely bring the answers, and that's all part of having good operational security, having good foresight and awareness to make sure that you're making the best decisions that you can over what's available out there. You don't want to fly in blind. It's always better to do stuff like this together in a community. That's the number one thing that I tell people. It's like, yes, you don't want people knowing all of your details, right? Because most of what we see here on the blockchain is public. That'll change, I think, sometime soon as more groups like our friends at Hinkle and other wallets come through with shielded transactions. But at the same time, we want that transparency. We want the ability there to be some accountability so that there's not any manipulation happening. And a way to enforce that. That's the other part too. That's probably the most important. So making sure that you have good security. Don't have easy to guess passwords. Use something like Bitwarden, like 1Password. Don't use LastPass. Use multi-factor authentication, whether it be a hardware key like a YubiKey. I know Google has a Titan key. There's a couple of things that are out there. Or you're using something like timed one-time passwords through Google Authenticator, through Duo, through NT. You can even use Authy if you want. Just know that it's not very easy to upgrade that when you're in it. So be careful out there. Be safe. There's a lot of bad actors out there. Yeah. A lot of bad actors out there. So you just want to make sure that we stay safe. Have a good strategy. Don't put all your crypto in one basket, obviously. Don't overinvest. There are a lot of ways you can have longevity being your own bank in this space, and one of them is just having a good system. That's something we definitely have put together over the last 5 years at Beacon. So with that said, we'll see you next Wednesday, 1 p.m. Eastern, for another great panel for our Total Value Lock podcast. You can tune into all of these socials. Like, follow, subscribe. If you got any value, send this to your friends, please. The best thing we can do is help spread awareness for the beauty and the utility of becoming your own bank through self-custody, through digital assets, and that's the one thing that we definitely want to make sure everybody gets the best chance to take advantage of, because we all deserve to have that. And that's it, guys. Have a great afternoon. Have a great weekend. And I hope you found good value in this. Again, I'm Chris, the DeFi professor. We'll see you next time. 07, beacons up, banks down. Keep beating those banks, guys. We'll see you next time. Take care.